We have grown apart. We are two completely different people from two completely different worlds. We have no children together. There is nothing holding us here." Unquote. Different worlds? Precious's voice rose slightly, a tremor of pure disbelief cutting through her shock. "Michael, I built your world. I stood in the mud so you could stand in air-conditioned rooms. I sold my father's land so you could pay your acceptance fee." Michael snapped, his eyes flashing with sudden defensive rage. "And I have paid you back with the status of being a doctor's wife. You have lived in this apartment rent-free for years. What else do you want from me? You want to chain me to your level forever? Look at you, Precious. Look at your hands. Look at your clothes. You are a market woman. You cannot sit in the dining halls where my future is being decided. You embarrass me." The silence that followed his words was absolute. Barrister Namdi cleared his throat nervously, sliding the legal documents across the table. "The petition is based on irreconcilable differences, Doctor. FA is offering a lump sum ex gratia settlement of 500,000 naira for you to relocate back to your village or establish a proper trading shop elsewhere. In exchange, you will sign an agreement stating you have no further claims on his assets, his income, or his professional standing." Precious looked down at the paper. Paragraph 4 caught her eye. She read it silently, the words searing themselves into her brain. The respondent made no meaningful financial or intellectual contribution to the petitioner's professional education or career advancement, the relationship being merely a cohabitation of convenience during the petitioner's student years. She read it twice. No meaningful financial contribution. "You wrote this?" Precious asked softly, looking up at Michael. "You told your lawyer that I contributed nothing?" Michael adjusted his gold wristwatch, a gift from Vanessa's father. "It is standard legal phrasing, Precious. Don't make a scene. Sign the papers, take the 500,000 naira, and let us end this quietly. If you try to fight this in court, you will lose. I have the best legal counsel money can buy. You have nothing." Precious looked at the man she had loved for nearly a decade. She searched his face for a trace of the young boy who had sat beside her on the wooden church bench in Ketu, weeping over his mother's body. She searched for the boy who had promised to build her a house. There was nothing left of him. Standing before her was a stranger, wrapped in expensive suit, blinded by arrogance and consumed by ambition. Slowly, Precious straightened her back. The pain that had been crushing her chest suddenly crystallized into something else, something cold, sharp, and immovable. She did not cry. She did not scream. She did not tear her clothes or hurl insults. She walked past the lawyer, picked up the legal summons from the table, and held it firmly in her hand. "I will not sign this," Precious said quietly, her voice ringing through the quiet room with absolute clarity. Michael sneered, taking a step toward her. "Don't be foolish, Precious. What can you do? You don't even know what a lawyer looks like. You will end up with 0 naira." Precious looked him straight in the eyes, her gaze so intense that Michael unconsciously took a half-step back. "You are right about one thing, Michael," she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "I am a market woman. I know how to weigh things on a scale, and I am going to make sure the court weighs everything you took from me." She turned, walked out of the apartment, and slammed the door behind her. 2 days later, the story broke across the legal corridors of Lagos. It began in the chambers of Chief Olisa Agbakoba and Associates in Victoria Island, one of the most formidable law firms in West Africa. Chief Jude Idigbe, a senior advocate of Nigeria, known across the country as the Iron Lion for his ruthless courtroom brilliance and his fierce defense of human rights, sat at his massive mahogany desk. He was a man in his late 60s, with silver hair, sharp dark eyes, and a reputation that made high court judges sit up straight. Beside his desk stood his junior associate, who had brought in a walk-in client from the pro bono waiting room. "Chief," the junior lawyer said quietly, "you said to alert you if any case involves St. Jude's Specialist Hospital, given our ongoing corporate litigation with their board. Chief Idigbe looked up from his files. Yes. What is it? A woman is here. She was served with a divorce petition from one of St. Jude's rising surgical residents, Dr. Michael F.A. The doctor claims she contributed nothing to his life and is demanding a summary dissolution. Chief Idigbe sighed, waving his hand dismissively. A standard marital dispute. Let the legal aid department handle it. Chief, the associate insisted, placing a battered metal box on the desk. You need to see what she brought with her. Chief Idigbe hesitated, then pulled the metal box toward him. He opened the lid. Inside lay 7 years of meticulously preserved history. There were official receipts from the University of Lagos bursar's office, stamped and dated, bearing Precious's name as the depositor for Michael F.A.'s tuition fees. There were bank teller slips showing monthly transfers of 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 naira small sums that represented an entire market stall's daily profit. There was the original land sale agreement from Ikorodu, showing that Precious had liquidated her entire ancestral inheritance to fund his acceptance fee. And at the bottom of the box were dozens of handwritten letters from Michael, explicit in their gratitude, promising lifetime devotion in exchange for her sacrifices. Chief Idigbe picked up one of the yellowed tuition receipts, reading the date and the amount. Then he picked up a letter written in 2019. Without you, Precious, I would be nothing. Every surgery I perform in the future will belong to you. The senior advocate of Nigeria slowly closed the letter. His eyes, usually cold and calculating, burned with a dark, terrible fire. He looked up at the doorway, where Precious stood dressed in her simple Ankara dress, her hands folded quietly before her, her jaw set like flint. Mrs. F.A., Chief Idigbe said, his voice deep and echoing in the grand office. Who drafted the divorce petition for your husband? Barrister Namdi of Lex Chambers, she replied softly. Chief Idigbe smiled a slow, terrifying smile that had presaged the downfall of politicians, bank CEOs, and corrupt billionaires. They want a divorce, Chief Idigbe said, rising from his chair and adjusting his silk suit jacket. They think they are filing a simple marital breakdown. But we are going to file a cross-petition for breach of fiduciary duty, fraud, unjust enrichment, and full financial restitution. He walked over to Precious, looking down at her calloused hands. Mrs. F.A., the senior advocate said, his voice echoing with the promise of thunder. Your husband thinks he is a doctor who knows how to cut people open. In 2 weeks, I am going to teach him how it feels to be dissected in front of the entire world. The High Court of Lagos State, Courtroom 4, was packed to the brim. Word had leaked through the legal corridors that Chief Jude Idigbe, San, was personally handling a pro bono divorce case against a rising star surgeon at St. Jude's Specialist Hospital. Dr. Michael F.A. sat at the respondent's table in a tailored, charcoal gray suit, his hair neatly parted, looking every bit the refined medical professional. Beside him sat Barrister Namdi, looking mildly uneasy. 2 rows behind them sat Vanessa Osagi, wearing a beige designer suit, her arms crossed, watching the room with cool indifference. She had assured Michael that her father's influence would keep any unpleasantness out of the newspapers. Across the aisle sat Precious. She wore a simple, dark, navy blue skirt suit, modest, ironed, and immaculate. Her face was calm, her posture straight. She did not look at Michael. Beside her, Chief Idigbe adjusted his silk gown, his sharp eyes fixed on the judicial bench. Court, the bailiff announced, and Justice Clara Folashade Adeleke stepped into the room, her robes rustling as the entire courtroom stood. Justice Adeleke was a woman known for her iron grip on her courtroom and zero tolerance for arrogance. She adjusted her reading glasses, reviewed the file before her, and nodded. We are here for the matter of times. F.A. v. F.A. Counsel, announce your appearances. Barrister Namdi stood up first, bowing low. May it please your lordship, I am C.O. Namdi, Appearing for the petitioner, Dr. Michael Ife. Chief Idigbe rose next, his deep voice carrying effortless authority. May it please your lordship, Chief Jude Idigbe, San, appearing with my learned colleagues for the respondent and cross-petitioner, Mrs. Precious F.A. Justice Adeleke raised an eyebrow. A senior advocate for a standard marital dissolution, Chief Idigbe? My lord, Idigbe replied smoothly. This is no standard dissolution. This is a case of deliberate financial exploitation, fraudulent misrepresentation, and extreme breach of trust, masked as a divorce. Michael shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Let the petitioner take the stand, Justice Adeleke ordered. Michael stepped into the witness box, took the oath, and smoothed his tie. Under direct examination from his lawyer, he played the victim smoothly. He described their marriage as an unfortunate mistake, born out of rural sympathy after his mother died. He claimed Precious was unsupportive of his high-pressure medical career, embarrassed him in professional circles, and that they had lived entirely separate lives. Did the respondent contribute financially to your medical degree, Dr. F.A.? Nnamdi asked, pitching a soft question. No, my lord, Michael said smoothly, looking directly at the judge. She sold vegetables in a small local market. Her income barely sustained her own basic needs. I took student loans, received university grants, and did odd jobs to fund my education. My wife's claim of financial sponsorship is a gross exaggeration. Vanessa offered a slight, satisfied smile from the gallery. Chief Idigbe stood up for cross-examination. He walked slowly toward the witness box, holding a thick leather folder. Dr. F.A., Idigbe began, his tone almost conversational. You are a general surgeon, correct? Yes, Michael replied proudly. A surgeon relies heavily on precision, memory, and facts. Is that fair to say? Yes, my lord. Good. Idigbe opened the folder. Let us talk about precision. On the 14th of October 2018, an acceptance fee of 85,000 naira was paid to the College of Medicine, University of Lagos. Who made that payment? Michael hesitated. I paid it from my personal savings. Your savings? Idigbe produced a yellowed bank deposit slip and handed a copy to the clerk. My lord, I tender Exhibit A, the original cash deposit slip stamped by Union Bank, Ketu branch. The depositor's name is Precious Ogenekaro. The depositor's signature belongs to the woman sitting right there. Justice Adeleke examined the document carefully, making a note. Michael's jaw tightened. Perhaps your memory failed you on that one, Idigbe said lightly. Let us try November 2020. A sum of 450,000 naira was paid for your third-year tuition and clinical rotation fees. Who paid that? I received an informal grant, Michael stammered, a bead of sweat breaking on his forehead. An informal grant? Idigbe chuckled, a low sound that sent a chill through the room. My lord, I tender Exhibit B, a registered deed of land conveyance from the Ikorodu Customary Land Registry. It shows that Mrs. Precious F.A. sold her only inherited property from her late father for 450,000 naira. The buyer transferred that exact sum directly into your student bank account 2 hours after the sale. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Justice Adeleke looked up over her glasses, her eyes locking onto Michael with sharp intensity. Dr. F.A., Idigbe's voice dropped its conversational tone, hardening into steel. Over 7 years, 47 separate bank transfers, tuition receipts, textbook purchases, and laptop invoices bear the name of Precious F.A. The total documented financial investment she made into your life comes to 4,260,000 naira. She gave me those as gifts, Michael blurted out, his composure cracking. Wives support their husbands. Gifts? Idigbe pulled a piece of faded notebook paper from his folder. My lord, I tender Exhibit C, a letter written in the petitioner's own hand, dated the 12th of June 2019. Idigbe cleared his throat and read aloud, his voice reverberating off the wooden walls. My precious, If I ever forget what your hands have done for my life, let my own hands forget how to hold a scalpel. This degree belongs to us both. I will pay back every kobo with interest, honor, and a lifetime of devotion." The courtroom was dead silent. Vanessa leaned back, her face turning pale as she stared at Michael's back. Barrister Namdi frantically flipped through his papers, unable to object. "Dr. Ife," Idigbe said, stepping right up to the witness box, looking down at the trembling doctor. "Did your hands forget how to hold a scalpel? Or did your heart simply forget how to be human?" "Objection, my lord," Namdi shouted, standing up. "Counsel is harassing the witness." "Sustained," Justice Adeleke said, though her glare at Michael was colder than ice. "The witness will answer no further questions on that letter. The document speaks for itself." Michael stepped down from the stand, his face flushed red, his hands shaking so violently he could barely hold his briefcase. 2 hours later, Justice Adeleke delivered her judgment. The courtroom was so quiet that the faint hum of the air conditioners sounded like thunder. "The court has evaluated the evidence before it," Justice Adeleke began, her voice steady and stern. "Marriage is a sacred covenant, but law is built on equity. The petitioner, Dr. Michael F.A., sought to use this court to discard a woman who literally sold her inheritance, her youth, and her comfort to construct the professional persona he wears today." She looked directly at Michael. "To claim under oath that the respondent made no meaningful financial contribution is not merely a legal strategy, it is a blatant, perjury-laced falsehood. The court finds the cross-petition for breach of constructive trust and unjust enrichment entirely substantiated." Justice Adeleke began reading the orders. First, the petition for divorce is granted on the grounds of irretrievable breakdown, as requested. However, equity demands full restitution. Second, the court orders Dr. Michael F.A. to pay the cross-petitioner, Mrs. Precious F.A., the sum of 4,260,000 naira, representing the full restitution of funds expended on his education, adjusted for inflation at current central bank rates, totaling 15 million naira. Michael gasped aloud. Barrister Namdi looked like he had been struck by lightning. Third, Justice Adeleke continued implacably. In recognition of her non-financial sacrifices, physical labor, and lost opportunities over 7 years, the court awards the cross-petitioner 40% of Dr. F.A.'s current monthly surgical earnings at St. Jude's Specialist Hospital for a period of 10 years, to be deducted directly at source by his employers. "My lord," Namdi cried out. "Do not interrupt me, counsel," Justice Adeleke barked, slamming her gavel once. "Furthermore, this court will transmit a certified true copy of this judgment and the evidence of perjury under oath to the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria for disciplinary review regarding Dr. F.A.'s professional ethics." Vanessa Osagi stood up quietly, pulled her handbag over her shoulder, and walked out of the courtroom without looking back at Michael once. Michael reached out a hand toward her, but she pushed through the heavy wooden doors and disappeared into the corridor. "Court!" the bailiff called out as Justice Adeleke stood and retired to her chambers. Outside the high court premises, the afternoon sun broke through the clouds, washing the concrete steps in bright light. Journalists and onlookers had gathered near the entrance. Michael walked out alone, his tie loosened, his suit jacket rumpled, his head bowed as photographers flashed their cameras. The man who had entered the court fighting for status had left with his reputation in tatters, his earnings impounded, and his medical license hanging by a thread. Precious walked down the steps flanked by Chief Idigbe and his team. She did not look triumphant or cruel. Her face reflected a calm, deep peace, the dignity of a woman who had walked through the fire of betrayal and emerged unbroken. Mama Caro and a dozen market women from Mile 12 were waiting at the bottom of the stairs, wearing matching Ankara wraps, singing traditional songs of praise, and dancing in a wide circle. Precious stopped at the bottom step and looked back one last time. Michael was getting into a yellow taxi, looking smaller and more defeated than the boy she had met on the church bench in K2 all those years ago. She turned away, embraced Mama Caro, and walked forward into the sunshine, her hands clean, her debt paid, her future, finally, her own.